is the patroness, of course, of Gambian women. And they welcome all our guests to the smiling coast of Africa, the Gambia, and wish all of us the best of luck in our conference. It is therefore with utmost pleasure that I read Her Excellency the First Lady's statement on this occasion as follows. It is with delight that I deliver the statement in this auspicious gathering, marking, of course, the commemoration of the 2014 International Women's Day celebrations, culminating, of course, starting first with a conference, a two-day conference. The International Women's Day is celebrated worldwide. We all know it's in March. That's supposed to be the day. But you all know why we don't celebrate it in March as well. In fact, hardly any country now celebrates it in March because everybody else that heads a women's machinery is supposed to be in New York for 3 weeks attending a conference of the CSW, Committee on the Status of Women. That is why most people celebrate it when they come back from New York. So therefore in the Gambia, because of a series of events that we are unfolding since we came from the CSW meeting, by the end of March, we could not hold it until this month. Now, the International Women's Day is celebrated, as I told you, worldwide, of course, with the objective of showcasing the significant achievements as well as the challenges encountered in the promotion of gender equality, equity, and the empowerment of women and girls. That's why we celebrate it usually. It gives us the opportunity to take stock of our achievements and indeed our shortcomings and challenges as well, and the way forward. For the first time in the history of our celebrations here in the Gambia of International Women's Day, it is being celebrated with a conference this time around on the theme Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance in the context of gender and the empowerment of women and youth. We all know that under the AU, with the leadership of the AU Commission there in Addis Ababa, that Africa is looking forward to the next 50 years, towards 2063. And there's an agenda that our heads of state have put in place. And there's a vision and a mission that should be implemented in the next 50 years. And of course, women this time around should not allow themselves to be left behind. Because the agenda has to be genderized in the first instance. It has to be gender sensitive. It has to incorporate all our needs as half of Africa's population, because indeed we are half, if not more than half in some instances. And that is why it's important that we look at the agenda and ensure that women's issues are incorporated in the agenda. Women and girls, of course, issues. So that is one of the reasons why we are holding this meeting. But why do we extend it to youth? Because that is a demographic dividend that is waiting to be utilized. It's demographic dividend. It's an advantage, it's an asset for Africa. We know that 60–70% of our population in Africa are youthful. And we have to make use of that youthful population. We don't see them as a liability, they are an asset. Only if we invest in them. Only if we build their capacities. And therefore, that is one of the reasons why we said women and youth. As you already know, besides this important conference, the day will be celebrated, of course, in Brikama West Coast region. They are our hosts this time around, and they are looking forward to receiving all of us. And I hope all of us will take advantage and attend the March Pass in Brikama on Saturday. Of course, that is where it culminates. You are therefore all invited once again to grace the occasion, as I said earlier on, which will be marked by a March Pass of security forces, who are some of who are present here, school children, women's organizations, NGOs, government institutions, voluntary organizations, and indeed all others. And there will be the handing over of equipment to women as well that have been donated by our parastatals and other people in the private sector. And of course, a cultural show. It would culminate in a cultural show to be performed and also done later on in next month, in June. We must, as a necessity, as the President always says, decolonize our minds and our economies for us to move forward as a continent. Therefore, Chairperson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gender inequality is not only inimical to personal development or the development of women alone and well-being, but also undermines national development as a whole. Everybody else is affected. Therefore, reducing or eliminating inequalities in society is therefore critical to improving the socio-economic well-being of men as well as women, of boys as well as girls, in fact, of all sectors of society, in short, able, disabled, whichever, or differently able. Because we always say development through women and empowerment of women means development and empowerment of all. Everybody else in society benefits. Inequality can be manifested in areas such as access to social services, wage as well as employment, education, job opportunities, the exercise of one's basic human rights, control over productive resources, as well as related institutional services, that is support services, and freedom to make informed choices and decisions. Addressing gender inequality, therefore, requires taking of a stock of, and indeed a holistic rights approach-based form of development as well, by all stakeholders that are concerned in the development process. Against this backdrop, therefore, the government of the Gambia, under the dynamic, visionary, and able leadership of His Excellency the President, a renowned Pan-Africanist we all know, whose philanthropy, or philosophy as well, and philanthropy to mankind, and writings on Pan-Africanism in particular and African Renaissance continue to inspire all of us in the continent and beyond. He has recognized the potentials of all, including women and youth, boys and girls, and has since accorded high priority to gender equity, equality, and the empowerment of women and girls in this country. This is clearly manifested in the positions of responsibility, of course, is given to women in various spheres. My colleague ministers are here in cabinet. You look at the National Assembly, the deputy speaker is there. There were former speakers, in fact, of the National Assembly who are female, several. When you look at the judiciary, it's top-heavy with women. So that is progress. Even the Attorney General was a judge, sitting judge at one time in the bench. So that shows progress that we are making in this country. When you look at the public service, whether it's the parastatal, you have CEOs who are women. GAIPA is a case in point. The MDI is a case in point. The list goes on. When you look at women who are permanent secretaries, the list goes on. Women who are ambassadors, the list just goes on. We can name them here and we'll never exhaust it. So really, the president has given opportunities, not to speak of the deputy governor, the female alcalis, and one day we'll have a female chief for sure, because the progress is going on. We are making progress. Women continue to occupy, of course, these positions and the myriad of development interventions, of course, that he has put in place as well, geared towards improving the status of women and girls. Let's look at some of the sectors. We are talking about social inclusion and social development. In the area of health, for example, this is a major priority for government. We all know that the president's priority is health, and he's an expert in his own right when it comes to health. And of course, in that area, the government continues to accelerate action and increase support for building stronger national health systems in this country in order to further upscale and leverage the gains that we have made in this area, in expanding service delivery to achieve universal access and targets on health. And today, we are commended to the extent that at the WHO, we are members of the board. The Honorable Minister just came from the WHO meeting, I think, the World Health Assembly. So we want to commend the Minister of Health, commend His Excellency the President. It's because of that effort that we have been recognized. We want to thank you. According to the Gambia Demographic and Health Survey, which was just held in 2013, last year, significant gains were made in reducing the maternal mortality rates in this country, in fact by 50%, the reduction. You all remember we had a figure of 1,050 per 100,000 live births. It came down to 730 per 100,000 live births. And today, as I'm talking to you, 434 per 100,000 live births. I think that is progress. We should commend ourselves. That shows that our health interventions are working. And we are saving women from dying, giving life.